Welcome to episode 4 for Unit 1 on fraction operations. This video is going to be more of a review from 5th grade standards for adding and subtracting fractions. We're bringing that back to kind of keep it fresh in our brain. So some of our keywords for this video are going to be numerator, denominator, which we've talked several times about in the previous videos. We're also going to talk about what sum means and difference. And we're going to talk about improper fraction and mixed number in this video. So I have a joke on the side that actually talks about improper. It says, Susie said my fractions were improper, and then she slapped me. So kind of ha-ha, improper, not the correct way to write a fraction. Well, I wouldn't say not correct. I would say not the proper way to write a fraction. Let's talk about the secret to adding and subtracting fractions. The real secret is there's not a secret. We've been making this too complicated for too long. So let's take a look at what basic addition means. So in this problem, I have stars, and I'm going to add these stars. So I have one star plus another star plus another star plus another star plus another star, which equals 5 stars. If you notice, I'm labeling. This is the key with adding and subtracting fractions, is the labeling. So I could relate this to fractions. I could say this is 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10, and I could keep going. I can add these together because they have the same label of a tenth. So I actually have 4 tenths there. So now let's look again at another problem that's similar. Okay, I could say that I have 20 50ths. And I want to subtract 2 50ths. Okay, they have the same label again. You notice when I said it, 20 50ths, 2 50ths. Same label. So I can subtract those. 20 minus 2 gives me 18. So I would have 18 50ths left over. Okay, now let's talk about, well, what if I don't have 2 of the same things? So if I'm looking here, if I have 3 stars plus 2 circles, can I say that these are starkles? Can I say I have 5 starkles? No, there's no such thing as a starkle. So you cannot just add these together because they're not the same labels. Stars and circles are not the same things. So for example, if I had 4/5 plus 2/3, I cannot just add these together and say, oh, I have 6/8. No, these are not the same labels. I had 4/5 and 2/3. And if you also think about it, 4/5 is really close to 1. 2/3 is really close to 1. So should my answer be pretty close to 2? So we have to look at those labels. Labels is the key to subtracting and adding fractions. If the labels are not the same, then we can't add and subtract them. So we need to remember that same denominators equal the same label. So let's take a look. If I had 3/5 plus 1/5, I could say that I have 4/5 because they have the same label. So in subtraction, this will look like if I had 12/18 minus 7/18, I could say, okay, I'm taking 7/18 away from the 12/18, which would mean I have 5 left over of the 18. So these are also same label. But sometimes we are going to run into problems where the labels are not the same. So when we have different denominators, we are going to have to write equivalent fractions for our problem to make them all have the same denominator, because remember, we talked about equivalent fractions previously. It represents the same amount of a whole. So for example, if I had 2/3 plus 1/6, 2/3, thirds, and 6 are not the same label. But I could change my 2/3 to represent a 6. I would multiply the numerator and denominator by 2 over 2, which would give me 4 6. And I would rewrite the problem as 4 6 plus 1 6. Now I have the same labels, which gives me 5 6. Okay, what does this look like in subtraction? So if I had 12 20ths minus 2 fifths, once again, 12 20ths and 2 fifths do not have the same label. We have 20ths and fifths. But I know I can change my 2 fifths into an equivalent fraction. I can multiply this 2 fifths by 4 over 4, which will give me 8 20ths, which is an equivalent fraction of 2 fifths. So I'm going to do 12 20ths minus 8 20ths. So 12 minus 8 gives me 4 20ths. Okay, and you could write this in simplest form. You could divide the numerator and the denominator both by 2 and get 2 tenths. Well, you made it to the end of the basics of adding and subtracting. There will be a second video with talking about mixed numbers and doing a little more complicated adding and subtracting of fractions. Here is the live assignment that you can do to practice. You can do it as many times as you need to. And remember, the timer is not set, so please take your time, work the problems out. If you have any other questions, please let me know. If you are in Ms. Gillum's class, if you would put what class period you're in, if your name isn't your normal name, that would be great so I can keep track. Soon we will have it through Google Classroom, so all you have to do is sign in and it'll automatically put in your name. So hope you have a great night and get some math studying done.